Death toll has risen again in Syria. At least 30 people are believed to have died in heavy fighting over the weekend. Rebels have been firing on a government stronghold in the western port city of Latakia. Rebels are still largely outgunned in the fight against the Assad regime and are said to be targeting government weapons stores. Millions of Syrians are being forced to leave their homes because of the ongoing civil war, which has claimed more than 100,000 lives in 2 years. Earlier, I talked with Kristalina Georgieva of the European Commission. I asked her how the EU is working to help the Syrian refugees, as well as people suffering in other parts of the world.
Our priority right now is first to help Syrians that are caught in this nightmare inside the country. Secondly, to help those who have crossed borders, the vast majority of whom do not want to go any further. They actually want to go home. They want to go back to Syria. But yes, there are people who are looking for resettlement in countries beyond the region, and some of our member states have been generous in receiving refugees. So far, some 50,000 people have moved to European countries. I want to particularly praise Germany and Sweden, who have been most active in this regard. But again, I want to stress that this is not the most significant question. We have to find a way to bring this conflict to an end. And that can only be done through political means. As long as it goes, we have to help people.
The fact that this conflict is still taking place right now has surprised, has shocked many around the world that it's been such a long period of time. You said something very interesting. You said that the original expectation was that this was going to be a short wave of people that would quickly recede. It's taken more than a year to recognize that this conflict is going to be very, very long. And we have been in contact with development organizations. In that respect, was the EU, as well as other organizations around the world, a little bit unprepared for what is taking place?
It has been the expectation of all of us that this war is going to be relatively short. So yes, we all were with the idea of a humanitarian emergency that goes back, or actually goes in history. But for fairness to the European organizations, to the humanitarian workers, we were among the first to start calling it as it is, to say this is going to be a protracted crisis. And a protracted crisis requires from us three things. One, to be prepared to put the funding in place for a long time. My call to Europe is we have to be there next year, most likely the year after, and to other donors, dig deeper into your pockets. We will have to do more. Second, this crisis requires to think of ways in which we support the countries that receive refugees, not only the refugees themselves, because otherwise conflicts between the refugees and the local populations will flourish. Third, we have to all put more pressure for finding this difficult path to a political solution, not to reduce the pressure that is necessary for a complicated situation like this. We have to get to this sooner, not later. 100,000 people have already died. How many more should die before the world musters the will to find a political solution? And we should not forget, this crisis throws a long shadow to places far away, because the more we do in Syria, the more constrained we are to help other suffering people elsewhere.
Well, that's a good point you make there, because I want to go to another place right now, and that is Eastern Congo. The European Union has just announced $13.2 million in relief aid for Congo. And this is what you said at the time. You said the world needs to wake up and act now against the unspeakable barbarity of sexual and gender-based violence in Eastern Congo. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
This is one of the most dramatic tragedies I have seen as a humanitarian commissioner. Using rape as a weapon of war has become acceptable. And that is where the world must press upon everybody in the country, also in the broader Great Lakes region, So there is not only pressure from Europeans, but from everyone.
What form does the aid to Congo take from the European Union?
We provide assistance for security. In other words, we are among those that make it possible for the peacekeepers to be there. We fund programs to build up an army that is capable over time to step up to the plate and do it without atrocities. And we are also funding development projects. On the humanitarian side, again, we are the largest humanitarian donor. We provided this year 71 million euros in humanitarian assistance, and it goes for helping with malnutrition, a country that is so rich of natural resources, where there should not be any hungry people. There are at least 2 million children that suffer from malnutrition, so we help with that. We help with medical care, and we help tremendously with activities that serve as protection against violence. Every time when there is an outburst, people get killed, they run out of their homes, the European Union is there to provide life-saving assistance.